I charged the same as the best search agency in Europe as a small startup of 2 of us in Sheffield. From the way we talk, the brand we've built, they see us as the enterprise, higher cost kind of option.
You hit $1.8 million in revenue year 1. You launched Rise at 7 in 2019. What was the secret behind that explosive, very quick growth?
I found a massive gap of applying creativity within SEO. When it comes to my niche, creativity in SEO was not really a thing, and that's what made us different. We had a 100% close rate. If you can learn to sell, you can do anything.
Why were you so good bouncing off 100% close rates?
I had an insane level of confidence about myself. I sell everything with my heart. I'm not doing anything less than £5,000. You're either really cheap and you beat on price, or you're really expensive and you beat on quality. And I think the ones in the middle are the ones that you see die really fast. You just need to walk into a room and be able to say £1 million without flinching. Trust me, in 5 years' time, you'll regret that because you'll be trying to shake off the cheap brand. I think agency owners, it's all in confidence.
If you were to start again as a founder today, what's the first thing that you're going to do? Carrie?
Hello.
Welcome to Agency Giants. So you launched Rise at 7 in 2019.
I did.
You hit $1.8 million in revenue year 1.
Yeah.
What was the secret behind that explosive, very quick growth?
There's not much of a secret. I've definitely shared this crazy story of journey, but I think, hitting $1.8 million in our first year is very unheard of. We had a target of 300,000 to be transparent. We thought 300,000 is a safe number in year 1, right? And to give you context, if anyone knows like Social Chain did 1.4, I think, in their first year. So it shows you the scale, right? Because I remember looking up Social Chain thinking, wow, fast growth, like they was doing some amazing work. And it was, a bit of an idealized moment that, we grew at that pace. The secret, if I'm completely honest, is during the first year of business, we took on everything we possibly could. And I had a co-founder at the time. And we had 2 very distinct roles. I went out and grabbed the revenue. I threw it over the wall and he caught it. He delivered on it. And it was very clear that I was there, throw it over the wall for him to catch. And he created this confidence in me and the structure in me where I did not look left, right, backwards or anything. I constantly looked forward to the point where I didn't even know the login to our bank account. So I had no idea how much money we was making. I just went out and got it. And I think so many business owners, especially in their first year, spend most of their time looking backwards, checking, are we making money on this? Are we doing that? And I know it's like you have to be safe and protect the margin and protect the business. But I didn't look once. I just constantly look forward. I didn't compare ourselves to anybody. I didn't look at competitors. I didn't look at, how are they structuring themselves? How are they propositioned? I just focused on looking ahead. And I think that's what drove like insane growth, if that makes sense. And that level of confidence came from having a co-founder at the time for sure. And we also had a little bit of investment. So I had one of my clients at the time, one of my number one client, the first client we ever won, offered us a very small amount of investment just to give me the confidence to not have to check my bank account kind of thing. It bought us a few laptops and it bought me 1 member of staff and that's it. But it helped. I think that level of confidence I had and not having to compare myself in the industry allowed us to grow at that pace.
Do you think that you found a gap in the market?
Oh, huge. I think agencies are fighting 2 battles. You're either fighting the data battle, like I've got bigger and better data than you, or the creativity battle, we're more creative than you. And I found that I would never be able to beat the data battle. I don't have massive data houses, data banks. I don't have budgets to go behind some of the biggest tech and tools. I'm never going to beat the performance agencies. But the thing I could be is more creative than them. And essentially, when it comes to my niche, creativity in SEO was not really a thing. SEO has always been a technical discipline. So I think I found a massive gap of applying creativity within SEO, and that's what made us different. There was a certain part of SEO as well that at the time was not necessarily a big growing side of it, and it was called digital PR. And it was a digital form of doing PR essentially, which impacts like algorithms. And I made my goal was go be famous in that, go be absolutely famous in digital PR, my land products. That was my land product. And then I expand in SEO content, social, in other ways. So that was my gap, is applying creativity into a niche that has never really seen creativity before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I want to unpack the kind of the service shortly and then dive into some client acquisition stuff as well. But just for the purpose of people that might not have heard of you before who are watching this, can you build some context on bringing you up to the point of launching the agency? Had you had agency experience prior?
Yeah, so I worked in one of the best SEO agencies in Europe. I was so proud to work there. It was an agency called Branded 3. They ended up selling and they don't exist anymore. They're sold on for many, many millions. But I worked there as a junior exec and I progressed up to what I was called a campaign strategist. I was running accounts like Ladbrokes, Go Compare. So I got exposure to some huge brands and huge budgets at such a young age. I was like 21, 22, 23. So yeah, I've worked agency side all of my life since I graduated. And I think what I ended up doing is I was the type of kid that went and sat on every table asking a million questions. Like I'd sit with the SEO team, the dev team, the paid team. And I was quite annoying, like constantly, why do we do this? Or why do we do that? How do you figure this out? I think it allowed me to learn how to run an agency really, really fast. So I launched my own at 25. I was 25 when I started Rise, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I've always worked agency side and, had amazing exposure to different brands.
There came a point, though, in working in the agency that you thought, screw it, I can do better here, or maybe there's an opportunity. Did you always think that you were going to jump into like starting your own thing, or was there like this moment where you're like, oh, I just want to do something by myself now?
If I'm honest, I always knew I was going to do something, but I didn't ever imagine it was going to be an agency. Strangely, there was a director at Branded 3. He's called Stephen Kenwright. So he ended up becoming the co-founder of Rise at 7. But that director kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and he taught me the ropes of sales, actually. He was like, if you can learn to sell, you can do anything. So he basically used to take me to pitches at 21 years old, and I used to just sit and listen to everything he said. And I ended up going to these pitches with him and pitching myself at a young age, and we had a 100% close rate. So whenever me and him went together, he had this role he played, and I had a role I played, and we had a 100% close rate. And it was mad. It was like this little thing that we had. So I ended up learning how to sell really fast. And I realised, to be honest, in business, all you got to do is sell. You got to learn to sell. I could do the doing. I spent all my career doing the doing. But if you can sell it, then, yeah, you've got a business idea here. So, yeah, it was a very kind of random act of creativity of thinking, yeah, I can start an agency. And there's a separate side of this of where I applied for the Apprentice, the TV show. I never got on. I got through to the final. I got an offer from Lord Sugar, but I declined it because he wanted 50%. But yeah, it was just a mad act of creativity of, okay, let's go start an agency. And it ended up just happening.
That's interesting. I know. What do you think maybe gave you to that sales edge? Why were you so good bouncing off 100% close rates? I
know, yeah, it's insane. I am just genuine. I sell everything with my heart. I'm a very good dreamer. I'm a dreamer. I'm a Pisces, so that's what I do. I dream. And I can help people visualize like what a campaign could look like. I'm very good at like telling stories. So I think I was kind of what you call an opener, and Stephen was a closer. So I think having that between us was a really good partnership, I think, of learning how to open conversations, how to get people to, dream what a campaign could look like, and then pass it on to him to go and close it. So yeah, I think that's what I learned at a young age.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've seen you say that you think being a first-time founder in the agency was an unfair advantage for you. Like, why is that?
Yeah, it was. I think there is many books on how to run an agency. There's many processes of how to run an agency. But sometimes, especially in today's world, you have to just see what works. And I just did it my way. And there were so many times, if I'm completely honest with you, where I've hired consultants and I've hired people that have been in agencies 30 plus years, and they've come in and told me this is how you should do things. And it slowed me down. I've made less profit and I wasn't doing great work. And I was like, no, I'm going back to what I know works. And yeah, I think it was an unfair advantage, the fact that I hadn't done it before, because I was not afraid to try things. I'm a type of founder, if I'm completely honest with you, that loves restructures. I love a restructure. I love change because I love figuring out the very small things you can do to make things work more efficiently or work faster or make more money. So yeah, I think it was a good thing, the fact I hadn't done this before, because I was open to failing and failing fast.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Were there any moments where you thought you would fail in the early stages?
No. I had an insane level of confidence about myself. And I don't know if it's because I'm a girl that's come from nothing. So I didn't have anything to lose. So I didn't have any fear of failure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was never something that went through my mind. If I'm honest with you, there was a moment where I remember when the pandemic hit, we was 10 months in. So 10 months into building an agency, pandemic hit. And at the time, we all got told, didn't we? 2 weeks. 2 weeks, we all go home. We were like, oh, nice, work from home for 2 weeks. And we had about 11 job ads live. And I remember saying to the co-founder at the time, should we take them down? So that was a slight hint of, oh, I could fail here. Like, should we put things on pause? Like, what if, things go backwards? And I remember ringing my mum saying, Mum, I'm about to do $1 million revenue. Like, what if the pandemic takes everything away? Like, we've done so good in 10 months. So there was a little moment of fear of failure, and that was because of the pandemic. But I do remember at the time, Steve and Ken Wright, if I flick between Stephen and Ken Wright, it's because I call him Ken Wright. So Ken Wright, he said, no, keep the job as live, go. So I was like, okay. And then, it worked. So slight little moment of fear, but overall, I have an insane level of confidence about myself and also my team and Stephen at the time. So, yeah.
Did COVID, initially I know for a lot of agencies it was like a bit of a shocker and there was like this disruption, people lost clients, but then did it end up being a really positive thing in the end?
Oh, it was huge for me. Like huge. Same. I actually, I won, so there were so many retail brands that we won during the pandemic, from Game, who sell like Xbox, PlayStation. We won Cath Kidston. Who else did we win? All of the fashion brands, beauty brands, because the only way for them to survive was online. So there was demand there, right? People still bought things during the pandemic. People had more money than ever before. And my job was just to capture that intent, capture the demand that was already existing. So SEO was huge, to be honest. So I think we positioned ourselves really well where, we was this fast-growing agency that was winning we won Best Large Agency in our first year. We didn't even win Best
Large Agency.
Yeah, we didn't even win Best Small Agency. Like, we just won Best Large. We grew that fast. And I think that momentum behind us was what got everybody watching. Like, we had thousands of followers within our first year, which is mad. Who follows an agency account? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think it was the fast pace of growth, the pandemic, the momentum we had. I love momentum. Momentum's the hardest thing to ever get. So the fact I got it for free in our first year, I rode it like crazy. So it was wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tactically speaking, like looking at that growth then, what did early stage client acquisition look like? You said like you got clients like Cath Kidston and Xbox or Game and so on. Like were those all inbound from existing relationships? Like what did that look like?
100% inbound. Mm-hmm. So we had no sales team for 3 years. First 3 years of Rightstone, we had not one salesperson.
You were closing?
I was, closing. So the sales and the tactic of acquisition, if I'm completely honest with you, was value exchange. If I can be out in the market, talking on stage, in meetings with clients and educating them about the world, because the world of search was constantly changing and the pandemic, everybody just needed advice. So I put myself out there and said, I'm going out in the market and you guys need to catch it. So, education. I stood on stage and educated clients and customers and I ended up winning loads of accounts for it. 70% in our first 2 years of our clients were recommendations, which is huge. People saying you should work with these guys. And I think ultimately it was purely brand. We built a brand. We built, good track history of performance. It was all inbound at the time.
Something I preach a lot to with agency owners is building that stage presence and having the ability to talk at events. Many people always have the objection of, it's easier than done. How do I get onto this good stage, this big stage and so on? What did that process look like for you? Presumably you had a little bit of a lot of credibility from the previous company that you worked in.
Yeah.
Was it stepping stones on smaller stages, then much larger? Like, what did that look like?
It was really interesting because essentially I didn't have a brand presence myself. I was quite young junior, kind of building a point in my career, whereas Ken Wright, he had a presence. So he actually ended up taking a step back on the stage presence and basically said, you go. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, how do I do this? Where do I apply? And I started medium. I didn't ever start small. It was one thing I was there's this saying, like, I want to win big and other people want to lose small. Like, I want to win big. So I was like, I'm not going small. I'm going straight in. So I went kind of pitched myself on stage. You have to do a lot of pitches of this is what I want to talk about. And the way I got on stage was giving everything I knew away. And there was a risk there, right? Because if I'm honest with you, 80% of the audience is other agencies. They're writing down everything I said. And I remember every time I made a statement, and this is how I do things, this is literally a screenshot of the way I do my process. Everyone was taking pictures, writing it down. So that's the risk I put at play of everybody copying me. But I've learned that majority of people in the room go home feeling inspired, but they don't actually act on it. So what I needed is that 20% of people in the room that was client side, that was listening and thought, oh my God, she knows what she's doing. She just literally told me how she does it. And then I got a phone call. So that's literally the story of our first client. I was stood on stage. I pitched to Brighton SEO. So Brighton SEO is one of the biggest in our niche. And usually you have to pay to get on stage. But I was this young 25-year-old. I've just started an agency. I've got loads to give away. I'm going to give away my secrets. So I got on for free. And I stood on stage and I presented, this is how I run my campaigns from start to end. And in the audience was the digital guy at Misguided. And we got an email to say, I've just seen you talk on stage and you was like incredible. I'm going to be honest with you, we've just done a pitch process. We've selected an agency, but we haven't signed the contract yet. It's going through legal right now. You've got 48 hours to get yourself to Manchester with your team to steal the contract. I was like, I don't have a team. It was just me and Ken, right? And I was like, I've got to get to Manchester with a team to steal this contract for Misguided for UK and US, massive fashion brand at the time. What the hell do I do? And I ended up calling up some friends and said, I need you to pretend to be staff. Get yourself in Manchester with me on Monday. We're going to pitch. And they came. And these were friends that I've known in the industry. And I went to this pitch and it was probably the best pitch of my life. And I was honest with the digital director who was sat to the left of me. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. You see these people in the room? They're like, yeah, they don't work for me. But I said, if I win this, I'm going to hire them tomorrow because he's the best I've ever worked with and he's the smartest guy I know. And they loved it. And we won it. We won the contract.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we stole it off IPG, big network. And I was a small little agency, and it was a global contract, 120 grand. Massive for me. Massive. So that was day one of Right 7, what we did.
Paint a picture of what that kind of pitch process looks like. For an agency that's never worked with that caliber of client before, like how long is the meeting? What does the structure look like?
Yeah, so a good pitch, you want a good pitch about an hour and a half. Anything longer is too long. Anything shorter, you probably don't get enough value in there. But really what you're doing is you're not selling yourself. A lot of people go in there, agencies go in there with a pitch creds deck of this is who we are, this is how many awards we've won, this is how many offices we have, and all these credentials. I don't talk about me. The first 30 slides, nothing to do with me. The first 30 slides has to be everything to do about them. Because ultimately, you don't say that you're great, you show that you're great. So I basically was like, this is everything I know about Misguided, where the opportunity lies. Here's some little quick wins, and here's some strategic things we're going to do over the next few years. And here's a banger of a creative idea at the end of it. Get them inspired. So yeah, that's typically how I run my pitches. That's probably got the 100% win rate back in the day. I haven't still got that, so it's definitely, but it gets harder now, right? I'm going for bigger budgets now, and I'm up against the big players. But that's the tactics.
Love that.
Yeah.
Are you still completely inbound? Did you ever introduce an outbound element to the business?
6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm only 6 years. So I'm 6 years old. And 6 months ago, we introduced outbound. It's getting there. It's not as... with outbound, you have to go mass, right? You're sending thousands of contacts. The good thing is we're doing it two kind of fold. We're building a great brand with great case studies, and we're also doing really smart outbound strategy so that when we're in the DMs of people, we don't need to go in cold. They've kind of already seen us. They've heard about us, or they've seen that report we did last week, or they saw someone of our team stood on stage in LA last week. Like, they kind of know about us in some way. So I think if you tie outbound with building a great brand and brand awareness, and I don't think any agencies don't build brand, by the way. And that's the secret behind Rise at 7 is we've built an amazing brand that makes sales easy, faster, and we convert cheaper. So we started doing outbound 6 months ago, and it's getting there. I think we're learning what works for us as an agency that's built off inbound for the last 6 years. So.
How do you think, or what do you think is the best way to build trust with these big CMOs and brand leaders?
Value exchange again. So with our outbound, there's nothing in that email about us. It's everything about them. Oh, by the way, we've seen that you're behind in this when we've looked into some data around SEO or whatever it is. We usually send them some insight. We've worked in your space before. We solved this exact problem for your competitor. Here's a download if you want to see it. And of what we did, leave it. Just give them value exchange. Nothing about us. And that's probably the best tactics in there. That's how we kind of approach things.
Nice. And are you quite bullish on personal brand within the business as well?
I was. I've gone on a journey. I've gone on a journey with personal brand. I'll tell you some stories. So I value personal brand massive because Stephen came out, he had a really big personal brand and I didn't. And he basically was like, you go on stage, you go build your brand. And, you know, I'm nearly 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is good for LinkedIn, right? And it's got to a point where I get invited to stage and get paid to talk now, right? And it helps my business massively. Like, I think, you know, I would say a good solid 60% of revenue that comes in every single year is down to not just my personal brand, but my team's personal brand. However, I think in the first 3 years, a lot of people, it was new back then, but a lot of people jumped onto it and wanted to build their personal brand. So they joined Rise at 7 because they wanted to build their personal brand, not because they wanted to build Rise at 7. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I found the ways in that they worked is they would do a piece of work for them, not for a client. Whoa, you're doing it. We're getting paid thousands for you to be client-centric. You have to think about the client first because the personal brand comes secondary. Do great work, become famous for it, right? Rather than become famous and then do great work for yourself. So I think, I went on a journey of hiring these people, which was mostly about their ego and not about the business. And I just learned some lessons through that for sure. So I try to, if people come into the business, I usually try to get them to focus on doing great work, focus on the client performance, and then go, hey, you've got some really interesting things to share now. Do you want me to help you build your network? Like, we could start with blog posts, we could start with, so I kind of build it up that way rather than leading with a personal brand first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And your personal Instagram is still a good pull-in for the business?
Not my Instagram. So
LinkedIn, sorry.
LinkedIn, yeah. So LinkedIn and Twitter. Instagram a little bit. I think I used to use Instagram to kind of make people feel like they know me, right, as a human. I am the same on Instagram versus LinkedIn. Literally, I'm the same person. And I think that's definitely a tactic to be that. But I've actually started to go a bit more private on Instagram. I think it's just, I'm 32. I want to be a mum one day, all these things. So I'm starting to kind of separate that life. But yeah, LinkedIn is still massive for me, like huge. And I did bits on YouTube as well. So I YouTubed, in the first 4 years, I YouTubed building the business. I had a vlog.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that won a lot of clients as well. So I think creating content as a founder is insanely important. But I think as anybody knows that when you're scaling a business like mine, when it comes to selling one day, you got to be able to prove that the business doesn't rely on you. So I think you have to think tactically about that over a 10-year, 15-year period.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just want to close off this kind of first year thing. The first year, that 1.8 million in revenue, like what kind of makeup is that of clients? Like, how many clients are we talking over that period? Or are these like a few very large accounts, or is this like a large volume of clients initially?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head, but as a rough guesstimate, our average retainer at the time was between 5 and 7 grand. So whatever that, a month. So whatever that equates to. So you're probably talking maybe 15 to 20 clients, I guess, with the odd 1 or 2, 3, 20 grand a month accounts. So yeah, I think starting the agency, especially in my niche, there's agencies out there that are doing £800 a month clients, right? Or they might be doing £2 grand a month clients. Straight away, I was like, I'm not doing anything less than 5 grand.
Yeah.
I charged the same amount as Branded 3, the best search agency in Europe. And as a small startup with 2 of us in Sheffield. And the reason I did that is because I was in no way going to devalue who we are and what we do. A lot of people go into business thinking, right, I'm going to beat them because I'm going to be cheaper. Trust me, in 5 years' time, you'll regret that because you'll be trying to shake off the cheap brand. And from day one, I said, oh no, I work at the best agency in Europe. So this is my charge and this is the fee and it's the same amount as them. And the way I'm going to win is because I'm better. I'm more creative than them. I'm better at them. So yeah, I think I went straight in with, 5 to 7K a month. And then I did have a couple of 20 grand account. There was a 25 grand account at the time a month. So it was probably around 15 to 20 accounts, something like that.
Yeah. Nice. I've heard you say that agencies in the middle die the fastest.
Yeah.
Like, why is that?
I think you're either really cheap or you've done some research on me. Yeah, you've seen my LinkedIn. You're either really cheap and you beat on price, or you're really expensive and you beat on quality. And I think the ones in the middle are the ones that you see die really fast. I think it's because they just don't know who they are and who they're for. I think brands don't mind paying premium as long as they get premium. So being in the middle, it's just like any brand right now. You see in fashion brands, beauty brands come and go really, really fast. And I think it's because they just sit in the middle ground. They're either really expensive or they're really cheap, and the ones that are in the middle just don't work. And I think that's a sweeping statement, right? So I think there's so many industries where you can fit nicely in the middle, but I see commonly agencies that try to just be everyone for everything for everyone are the ones that usually fail fastest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever deliberately priced like above the general market and won a client?
Yes.
And
yeah.
How did you get that client?
How did I get that client? Someone once told me you just need to walk into a room and be able to say £1 million without flinching. And I was like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try walk into a room and say £1 million without flinching and look like, yeah, fair, she's £1 million. Mm-hmm. And it worked. And I think sometimes you have to know. I'm going to tell a story. We pitched a Lego once. And we lost it. And do you know what? They said, you're way too cheap. You've made yourself look shit. I was like, what?
Wow.
Fuck, we've lost Lego. And I thought we was pricey. I thought we was good price. But yeah, you've got to be able to imagine these are the budgets. And, we're working with the biggest brands in the world right now. We're the SEO agency behind Red Bull and Bumble, some amazing big brands. You've got to be able to stand up and say a price and also give really high quality work. That's the expectations. So it's interesting about how you judge which one do you go discounted on because you really want to win it, or which ones actually you need to have the confidence to say a big number because you're going to look shit if you don't. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's a painful place. I've been the exact place myself.
Oh my God, it is scary because you're taking a bit of a gamble. You've got to be able to read the room.
I pitched prices that were the biggest price I've ever pitched, and it was still way too low for the general market.
Yeah. It's hard to get right, but my little tips around pricing is ask a million questions up front. I think not, and I also say, right, here's a range, but I think it's going to come in between this and this. What does that sound? And they'll just tell you, nah, we want double that. And you're like, okay, yeah, sound fair. So always, I don't think people are afraid to talk about money, but I always do it. As we're having the intro calls, you're probably going to come in about this, maybe this. It depends, and then you'll start to see their reaction. And then, right, when we said that number, they was like, yeah. So, have early conversations about money.
Are you going in with a very specific, this is when you're doing the final pitch, this is what we're recommending, or are there a couple of different options on various different, to expedite the process from a time perspective, for example? What is the pricing strategy?
Yeah, so we do what every agency does and gives A, B, and C, bronze, silver, gold, whatever it is. However, I think we win when we say, you should spend that. If you want to get to this, you should spend that. And my little trick I do is, you can do option 1, option 2, option 3, but if I were you, I'd actually go with option 2. I know I'm calling myself out of money here from option 3, but actually I think the best thing for you right now is option 2. And if I were you, I'd scale it up in 6 months to be option 3 in 6 months when we hit this number. I think they just love honesty. So we price ourselves in that way, but you got to make sure that option 3 is way higher, by the way. Option 2, so say if it's 10 grand, 14 grand, option 3 needs to be 30 grand. You have to show option 3 to be this is what the world could look like.
Like an anchor price.
Yeah. And so that's the dream, right, for what you want to get to, but you have to show a journey of getting there.
Do you think an agency can recover from being priced low in the market? And if so, how? Do
I think they can? No. Well, it takes a lot. I think brands, big brands struggle. Never mind an agency. Pretty little thing, fast fashion. They're trying to go into this luxury fashion now. They're just dying because everybody just knows them as that, especially if they've got history behind it. I think it depends how many years you've been going and had this pricing structure behind you. If 2 years in and you haven't necessarily got a big brand, you can start fresh. You can do what you want. You can, rip it up and start again kind of thing. But if you've been going, 10 years and you've always had this kind of way of being the cheap agency, I think it's going to be very hard for you to shake off. I have a friend who is a founder in my space, and he's been the cheap agency all of his life, and he just can't shake it off. Clients just don't go to him for that. It's interesting, actually, because I've never put our prices online. But there was an article recently in the industry saying if you want enterprise level services, you should go to Rise at 7. And it said that they're probably not they're not the cheapest option. But I was thinking, how do they know that? Because I've never said it online. I've never said what our prices are on our website or anything. But it's interesting from the way we talk, the brand we've built. They see us as the enterprise, more higher cost kind of option.
I mean, your brand presence reeks of premium. Like
Yeah,
it's a great brand presence, and,
Yeah.
and I think that demonstrates through the website and everything.
Yeah.
What do you think the answer is then? Rebranding as an agency, if you've been in that position?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, to start again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also don't think anyone should be afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fun. I think it's if you've been going for that many years and you need to completely create, you have to think about a new brand. So yeah, that's what I'd do.
Being different is better than being better.
Oh, it's my favourite quote.
What does that mean?
There's, we all used to figure that out when we was younger, right? We were like, is it better to be better? Is it better to be different? Because everyone used to be, if you was different at school, you used to get bullied for being different. It's better to be different every single time. And there's actually science behind this. So I studied psychology. Tell you some psychology stuff. So when we're born, our brains are very, very simple. We think up, down, left, right, black, white. Like we're very, very simple humans. And what happens is when we see things going on TV, so take TV ads, and say if in between Coronation Street there's 8 ads, if all of a sudden everybody does a similar ad, like kind of talking about their product, hit price or whatever it is, then you have 1 in 8 chance. I'm not even going to do 8 actually because that's hard for maths. Say if I have 100 ads or something like that, you have a 1 in 100 chance of being remembered, right? Whereas if all of a sudden someone does something completely different, like the ad is like, wait, what's that on TV? Or, something completely different. Maybe it's a silent ad, or maybe it doesn't include people, or, whatever, something completely out there. Then what happens is the brain buckets everyone that looked like this over here and everyone that looked like this over here. And all of a sudden what you've got is 50% of the brain. So you're stealing 50% of the mental awareness, essentially, by being different. And that's why, I don't know if you ever saw the Coinbase ad. Was it Coinbase? During the Super Bowl. Can you remember it? So Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they basically did a QR code that just bounced around the screen. And it was for, I think it was Coinbase. And obviously Super Bowl do these massive ads, and it has like Rihanna and Beyonce and everything like that. They was like, no, we're not using a celebrity. We're just having a QR code that bounced around the screen. But it was the most talked about ad of the last decade. It had the most app downloads ever. It got to number 1 in App Store because it stole 50% of the brain. People was like, that's different. And the thing is, being different it always wins. So I make sure everything I do, I'm different. I want to line up against other SEO agencies, and I want to stand out like a sore thumb. Like when I talk on stage, I have a different way of saying things. Sometimes I'm controversial, but I do that on purpose. I think being different is your advantage, and I think that's the thing you should lean towards. If I ever feel like, oh my God, the industry's starting to talk like me, look like me, or catch up, then I rebrand. And not full rebrand, but I do something to make me stand out.
Love that.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to speak to Rory Sutherland this week on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Have you heard him speak about reverse benchmarking?
Don't know.
It's reverse benchmarking is a great concept for this. And it's just simply the concept that most people will look at, the likes of yourself and think, how can I be like Rise at 7?
Yeah.
And instead think about what Rise at 7 don't do or do
love it.
badly, and then do that thing exceptionally well.
Yeah, double down on it. Yeah, 100%. And that's, how I said before at the beginning of this podcast that the massive gap in the industry was that everyone was fighting the data battle. In SEO, everyone was fighting the data battle as well. And nobody was good at creative. So I doubled down on the thing everyone was shit at and just make myself famous for it. So yeah, I agree massively.
How would you define then what makes Rise at 7 different to your competition?
It's interesting because obviously I'm biased. Like I live in my agency every single minute of the day, and I can see what's different. But what I'm trying to think then, what does the market know as being different? I think SEO has always chased algorithms. As technical people, we try to manipulate Google's algorithms, TikTok algorithm, Amazon's algorithm. That's what we do. We try to manipulate algorithms. But I think Rise at 7, what we actually do is get in the mind of people. And I think not enough marketing gets in the mind of people. We're trying to just constantly hack stuff. And someone very smart, Stephen Kenwright, he said to me, everyone's chasing Google, right? And I said, yeah, we're literally spending our careers doing it. And he said, do you know what though? He says, I think people aren't that smart. Google's not that smart. Because what Google is actually doing is chasing humans. Humans are moving faster when it comes to their search behavior than anything else. Like we as humans are constantly evolving. We even make up our own terms, right? We make up our own ways of behaving. So Google's just trying to chase us. So rather than trying to chase Google, why don't we just chase people? So I think that's what Rise 7 does really, really well, is takes kind of traditional marketing, traditional advertising concepts and brings it into SEO. And I think nobody else does that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You mentioned owning terms then, and obviously you're speaking on a lot of stages. Do you create your own unique mechanisms and speak about your unique methodology at Rise at 7? Do you think that differentiates you as well?
I don't believe in making the simple complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I think too many agencies make it too complicated. They create their own terms, they create their own propositions, tools, ways, and all that we're trying to do is say we all do the same thing, but we're just making it sound smarter. There's a quote out there that basically says, stupid people think being complicated is clever. But smart people know you have to go beyond the complicated to get to simple, and you have to get to simple. So I actually try to simplify things, and I think that's what makes the agency better. I try not to create too many buzzwords or too many unique propositions or, unique processes, because I just think it's just bullshit in agency. I think actually if you just keep it simple, it makes it easy to sell and easy to buy.
Would you say that's one of the bigger mistakes that agencies make in positioning, and if not, what?
Yeah, I think it's huge. Most agencies, you go on their website, you have no idea what they do. I've gone through a journey on this because I don't know if you've seen, but in the last 12 months, I rebranded the agency. It was more of a, who are we? How do we? And it was based off a guy messaged me on LinkedIn, and he said, Carrie, I love what you guys do. I followed you since day one. I don't know if you remember this, but And he said, I'm obsessed with everything you guys do, but I'm just going to be honest with you. I've been on your website like 100 times. And he said, I still can't put my finger on what it is you do. And it lived rent-free in my head. I read that LinkedIn message, and I couldn't sleep. I rang my colleagues. I was like, listen, I just sent this message today. I didn't even reply to him, bless him. I can't remember who said it. I need to go back to you. So thank you who did it, because you changed everything for me. But I was on a train down to London just rinsing my brain thinking, come on, Carrie, what is it you're going wrong? Where are you going wrong? And I looked at my website and I was like, what is it we do? We're not clearly defining it in one sentence. So I rebranded of we create category leaders on every searchable platform, done. And it gives everybody, it's so interesting how fast the business picked it up first. That's the most important. How fast they picked up, we create category leaders on every searchable platform. And then how fast the market, I saw a director within a big beauty brand say, we're trying to be the category leader in this. And I was like, no one's ever said that. That's driven from our proposition. So I think agencies overcomplicate things. Most people don't know what you do. I think you need to humanize who you are, make it simple. But that's the hardest part to do, I think. Is that proposition part is the most unique, but the hardest part to do. Certainly
difficult in the early stages when you don't even know what your true value to the market is
100%. Yet. Yeah, that's the hard thing. I've definitely, but it's interesting actually, because if I was to print out all of the ways that our proposition to the world over the last 6 years, and if I was to print it out, there's definitely a journey, and it's definitely expanded and got better, but it's all been centered in something, and it's always been centered in creativity. So you know how we're fighting the data battle or the creative battle. That's the anchor, I guess, that I've stuck to, is because we can get distracted and fight the data battle. I even mentioned it as I walked in, about maybe one day we'll be big performance agency. But I'm like, no, stick to what you're great at. Do you know what I mean? I think we get distracted as founders, so.
Yeah, there's always some other shiny object.
Oh my God, is there? Yeah, that could make us loads of money, but it could also make you really complicated and also, lose passion and lose the culture of the business.
Have you had one of those rabbit holes you've gone down that's kind of taken you off course temporarily?
Yes, I have. I'm a what's the word? Move fast, fail fast person. Mm-hmm. So within a few months, max 2 months, I realised, this is taking up too much of my time and it's not going to get the return. I saw this concept of rather that, my job is to get the media, and media for me is social media. It's publications, it's media on Google and things like that. We're all trying to steal the space of that media, right? But rather than trying to get the media to talk about us, why don't I own the media? So I started building out my own media sites. And I realised, this is going to be hard. It's going to take so much time. So that was my big distraction.
It's a lofty goal.
It is, isn't it? Let's own the media. Yeah. I thought, that's the way to get your multiple up. But yeah, I think it is you can easily get distracted as founders, but I think you've got to be smart to know when you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And just cut it straight out.
For sure.
Yeah.
So obviously you've grown at over 100% year on year growth over the years.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was probably more than that in the first 4 years. Currently we're doing about 10% growth at the minute, which is definitely safe. A good agency should be growing about 20% year on year. That's healthy, great growth. But we I've been trying to grow smarter in, like, our profit margins are loads better. To be fair, we've always had great margins profit-wise, but yeah, we're in a really strong position now. And I think I've been trying to build a sustainable business, because I think the first 6 years was just built off momentum. And now I've been on a journey of proving myself. It's not just momentum. We've got a great agency, you know.
So from 2019 to today, like now annual revenue is just shy of 10 million?
Yeah. Of dollars, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. What was that, 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
6 years. That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How has that hiring process been over that time? Because presumably you've had to take on a huge volume of people over the years.
Yeah, so we got up to 110 staff really rapid in our first, 3-4 years. And I went on a journey where I hired a lot of people from agencies that already existed, you know, your prospects of the world, things like that. And I'm going to be transparent that most of those people didn't work out. I either had to say goodbye because of performance issues, and I think it's because we have a very set way of doing things. Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Of course.
Yeah. So there's a scene where he decides to go and start his own little thing, doesn't he? And he's in this like back alley little place, and he writes a script. And he says, follow the script, don't go out the lines. I basically did that. I wrote a script of this is, you know, the whole presentation I did on stage that day. Mm-hmm. I wrote it down in every single document. I said, this is the script, don't go out the lines, just do it. And I hired 60 graduates from university and just trained them up from the ground. I actually did a big campaign during the pandemic called the Graduate Recruitment Scheme. And it was basically quit uni, because people were spending $9,000 a year to do it from home. Like, why would you do that during the pandemic? Do you know what I mean? Quit uni and I'll teach you instead. And we had several people quit and come start us. It made the media, like press talked about it. This agency girl is telling you all to quit. So yeah, graduates was the trick for me at the time during the fast growth. I think it's easier to hire and build than hire from other agencies during fast growth, definitely.
Did you physically get a HR manager in? Are you working with a recruitment agent? Because that volume is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. No, I didn't. I had a HR team, like a little team, to be fair, 2 people at a time. But yeah, we was getting a lot of applications come to us. It's easier when it's graduates, because all you got to find is, the number one skill I look for is curiosity. If you can find really curious people, then get them in. The rest you can teach. So yeah, enthusiasm and curiosity I went and found through graduates, and so getting them to apply was the easy part. Just doing really great, you know, the vlog, the building the brand, the clients we was working with, getting those grads in was easy. We're definitely on a different journey now, because we've got we did build the business off graduates, and now we're in a different space. Like, I'm hiring people now on 60, 70 grand and 100 grand and, you know, things like that. So we do go and headhunt ourselves, but I still don't have a recruiting team. I actually still don't even have a sales team, really.
But is it then head of departments that are taking the interviews?
Yeah.
Curiosity. How are you identifying that in someone?
You know, in an interview, and you say at the end, you know, because you've asked a million questions, and you go, just before we go, have you got any questions for me? And if they say, no, I don't think I have, they don't get the job. Curious people have a million questions. They want to know, tell me about the first days. Tell me about what clients you guys are working on. And they ask a million questions. Curious people have a million questions. So that's my little trick, is like, throughout the interview, you're also getting to know them, what's their experience, you know, just getting to know their personality. And I always leave 10 minutes, right, just before we go, have you got any questions for me? And if they say no, I'm like, yeah, I've got the job.
On the spot.
Yeah. Well, I've never said that actually. But yeah, curious people, it's always at the end. If they don't ask questions, then yeah, because that is, curious people have, you know, like I said in my early days, I was sat with the dev teams, I was sat with the PPC teams, asking them a million questions. You figure it out, right? You're just learning, and that they're the best people to find. 100%.
So you started with a co-founder.
I did.
Yeah. What do you think is the key to making sure you've got a good co-founder in place?
Oh, I've learned some lessons on this. So it's been an amazing journey. So I have worked in agencies all my life. And when I was deciding to start Rise at 7, I obviously had to choose, well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to choose somebody to do this with. I obviously knew that Steve and Ken Wright, we had a great pitch process of 100% win rate. So number one, that was the easy win. But I also had a best friend who worked with me as well called Will. And I considered thinking, what if I ask Will? And Will was just like me. He was a really good creative person. He basically did the same thing, same job, same skill set. And I knew that when we have a bad day, we'd both be buggered because he can't do what I can't do. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I need somebody that can do the things I can't, and I can do the things he can't. And Stephen, if you ever sat us in this room together, you'd think, God, you two are complete opposites, like completely the opposite type of people. But that's what works because he can bring something to the business that I couldn't, and vice versa. So I think if you ever decided to start a business, a lot of people decide to start a business with someone just like you because you're like, oh my God, I need another me, right? We all need founders. We feel like we need to double us. We don't. We need to find someone that can do the things we can't. And I think that was the trick, definitely, to finding a good partner.
And Stephen's no longer in the business, is he?
He's not, yeah. So pandemic, we went through the pandemic. What year would it have been? I think it was year 3, beginning of year 4. He was really struggling in his personal life and his mental health. I think pandemic has played a big part. The fast growth of the business definitely played a big part. We've had open conversations about how hard it was for him. So he decided he wanted to exit. So I went for a management buyout. He exited. And yeah, he's living a great life as a consultant now, which is amazing.
Fine. Was that ultimately a positive thing in the long run for the business that set you back financially having to do that buyout then?
Yeah, it set me back financially. I remember at the time, to be honest, I was petrified at the time. I was quite, my confidence that in that year was quite low. And I think it's because I could see he was flagging. I could see he was struggling, and I felt like I had the world on my shoulders, right? We was fast growing. We had 100% year-on-year growth. We expanded to America that year. So I felt I had the world on my shoulders, and I was like, he could bounce any minute now. And to take the risk of, you know, financially being able to buy him out, it hit the business really hard, if I'm honest with you. You know, being a startup as well. But ultimately, I think me taking control of it and building a business that had one founder with one vision and one direction was probably the best thing that the business needed. I don't think I wouldn't ever say we had two different ways of doing things. I wouldn't ever say we had two different visions of where the business, I think we was very aligned. But I definitely think I was able to take control, slow things down. I actually did that on purpose. I ended up ringing a few clients who was under my minimum and said, sorry, but we're ending today. And they was like, why? And I was like, because I want to take control of this business. And, you know, if it means less revenue, I don't mind. So I ended up declining the business by about $1 million that year. But then ended up, right, who do we want to be? How do we want to grow for the next 5 years? And yeah, built it from the ground up. And then since then, so the last 3 years, we've had great growth. We're really, really profitable, doing growth every single year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like Stephen was very much like somewhat of a mentor figure in your early stage of
100%.
Yeah. Did it feel like somewhat of a symbolic passing of the baton, that kind of transition period?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's really nice that you say that. So there was a really interesting moment in our journey where I don't know if you guys, anyone's listening, they'll be thinking, you know, they're not called CEO or the founder. I was called creative director and he was called technical director. So none of us had these like, who's the MD? Who's the CEO? So we never really had those conversations. And I remember at the time thinking, what if Carrie Rose says I'm going to be the CEO? What would I want to be? And I weren't really driven by ego at the time, so it didn't bother me. But I remember thinking like, oh, I wonder if that ever comes up in conversation. Well, anyway, there was this one day where we did a presentation to the business, and Stephen said, anyway, we've got something to announce to you all. I was thinking, have we? What we got on? I was like, I can't remember we had any news. And he said, oh, you're looking at your new CEO, Carrie Rose. And I was like, what? And he said, well, the only way we're going to get to the moon is if you take us. And I remember thinking, I was making an emotional thing about it. Because I remember thinking, what? I did not see it coming. I didn't expect it at all. And I didn't think he'd pass on. And that symbolic baton passing, I felt it from him a little bit. And I didn't know whether it's because he really believed in me or whether he didn't believe in himself. I couldn't figure that part out. But either way, I remember feeling really grateful for it and tried to make him feel like I need you still. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was a really interesting moment for sure. Because I went home and Googled, what does a CEO do? I was like, what does a CEO do? What's the responsibilities of a CEO? I was like, what's they supposed to do? Because I wanted to be a good one, right? So yeah, it was fun. It was interesting.
Awesome. I love that. So you've kind of now got the weight of the entire business on your shoulder. Oh my God, yeah. You're at this moment, and did culture take a little bit of a knock? Did you have to rebuild culture? What did that process look like?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you and say, we went through a journey. If anybody Googles Rise at 7 or talks about it in the industry, 3 years ago, we had a really bad reputation for having like crazy culture. There was reviews about us that, fast-paced business, high expectations, working till midnight. The boss always changes her mind. She's firing people left, right, and centre. And everything you read was true. Like, everything was true. It was fast-paced, and I did fire people fast, and I did have high expectations, and I did change my mind all the time. It was chaos. We worked till midnight every night. But I was working with Red Bull. I was working with the biggest brands in the world, and they had these mad expectations on me. So I had to set these expectations within my business. And I tried to tell people that it's not going to be easy. I always, in my interviews, not just say, have you got any questions, but I say, are you ready? Because this is not going to be easy. We are a start-up business. We don't have massive financial backing. I don't have a senior team. I don't have an HR team. It's not going to be easy. Are you ready to learn fast and grow fast? And some people was like, yeah, I really want to get into this because I'm in the same position as everybody else. I was on the front line with everyone, But then some people just did not like it, and our culture took a hit. So when I got the position of CEO, when I took full control of the business through the management buyout, I thought, it's time to change this. Do I actually want to be working till midnight? This whole work-life balance. So I've spent the last 3 years building a business that I would want to work at if I was a member of staff, and we've transformed it. We've transformed the culture of the business now, and it's been great. But it was the early days of a startup. That's just what it is.
If you were to drill that down to a couple of key things, what would you say enabled you to make that transition?
Of the change?
Of the change from, the stress of that hustle and bustle up till midnight working on accounts to, okay, we can still produce incredible results, but not at such an insane rate. One
of them was stop taking on too much work. The pressure that team had was because I brought in loads of work and didn't say no. I had minimums of $5,000 a month, but I still took on everything. But I have a rule now of it has to tick 3 Fs: fun, fame, or finance. If it's not bringing you fun to work on, we don't take it. So it has to be fun to work on. It doesn't have to make you famous, because not every brand is like, I have some clients like Mauser. No one's ever heard of it, but it's an electrical components business in B2B. It's not famous, but what they do bring is great finances. So they have to tick 2 of the 3 Fs. They have to bring either fun, fame, or finance. And if they don't do that, then they don't come in. So I basically built a culture around, it's not just about money, it's about doing work we all enjoy. That slows things down. It helps people kind of manage their workload a lot better. And I weren't just throwing new things over the wall for everyone to catch and thinking, what else you got today? So I think that was one of the biggest decisions I made, for sure.
What do you think that you've learnt about being a leader during that transitional period? What do you think has enabled you to become a better leader for the team?
When you get past 50 people, you realise you can't manage everybody anymore. And that's a really hard journey to go on. Anybody that's scaling a business, you find it really hard to manage people. I don't think I've ever been a micromanager. I'm actually the opposite. I'm quite a hands-off person. But trying to get, the whole follow the script, don't go out the lines. So many people started to not follow the script. They started to go out the lines. And I think that's, you end up getting really stressed, and you get angry, I told you guys, this is how you do it, whatever. And I think for me, I realised you can't manage everyone past 50 people, but what you can do is inspire everyone. So my role now is every single month, I go in and inspire people. I stand in front of the business and I tell them this is what's going on in the industry. I have an open chat called, it's just called Innovation at Rise. And I'm constantly putting things in there, inspiring people. Giving people pats on the back when they do great work, setting good standards. So I think, as a leader, I realised, you're not here to manage things anymore. You're here to inspire people. So I think that's the transition I've gone through, for sure.
I love those as 2 really simple, actionable things that people can introduce. I think you can introduce that at all levels. That innovation chat is really interesting. Yeah. And then also you doing a monthly kind of stand-up with the team. Can you break down just a little bit deeper what you're doing in those stand-ups?
20 minutes. And so usually we have a monthly stand-up with the rest of the business. And actually I allocate leaders in the business to do a stand-up too. So it's not just me. But I open, and I usually tell them that this is the theme of the month of what's going on in the industry. This is the problems that businesses are facing and the role we play to solve it. So I'm always trying to bring that to the table. So then people have are leading with that when they're thinking about their next strategy or their next idea. They're thinking about, okay, well, Carrie said this the other day, that this insight that's going on within the market right now. I think my job is to be out in the market to see which way the wind is blowing in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And I've got to bring that to my team and my clients. And I think that role is super important for a CEO, because I think too many CEOs or founders of businesses are in the weeds and they don't get out in the market enough. And I think that's the difference I've made over the last 3 years, definitely.
Nice. Looking at the agency's service as a whole and how that's kind of evolving, like you define it as search-driven content marketing.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
We create content, and we create content for social media, for publications like BBC, Daily Mail, etc., and on-site for Google. There are 3 channels we create content for. Search first is the kind of USP of Rise at 7, because I think content has always been driven by, audience data, focus groups. But actually, I think we as marketers are putting things in front of people, not knowing what is it you want, and we're trying to ask all these questions in focus groups to try to figure people out. But I think search data, literally, they're telling us what they want. They're putting it in Google every single day. They're telling us their problems. What we put out on social media is what I want people to think about me. But what I'm putting in the search bar is my real problems, my real truths, whether it's skincare problems, whether it's trying to lose weight, or whether it's, anxiety at work or whatever. Search data is the human truth, and it's unfiltered. So I think search data plays a massive role in every marketing. So search first content ideas is the proposition behind Rise, and I think it's the thing that makes us different. But it's so unique and so powerful for every channel that it makes it so human.
As a business, is it a retention-based service, as in you win a client like Red Bull and you retain them for long term, or is it quite campaign-based?
Retention. So 80% of our clients is retainer-based.
Nice.
Minimum 12 months, and then the rest projects. We do make a lot of revenue on projects, and you have little strategic things to upsell projects and throughout the year. But ultimately, we try to do minimum 12 months. I think with SEO, it's especially we don't just do SEO. To be honest, actually, SEO is our smallest amount of revenue. Content in all essences is where we make obviously all of our money, but it's a long-term play, right? We try to aim for retainer-based model at all times.
Which is presumably why your profit margins are so strong, because you're able to optimize for that.
And why my cash flow is great.
Yeah.
I've never had cash flow problems. We were very strict on payment terms, very strict on 12-month minimums. People have said to me in the past, but clients say, oh no, we can only sign 3 months, we can only sign 6 months. Just say, oh, okay, well, ours is 12 months, our policy. Because if they want you, they'll go for you. And if they don't want you, they weren't going to come anyway. Yeah. So just stick to it. Just say, well, ours is 12 months. So they will, as soon as if they want you, they'll accept your terms.
How do you handle expectation management? Because I see a mistake that many agencies make when they're just trying to compete with other agencies as they go for really short terms and promise really quick results immediately, which are not really possible. So how are you paving that conversation with clients? Because presumably with your service, it's a long-term play, which is why the 12-month is not just in play for revenue, but it's there for results, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think so we're able to forecast on 12-month revenue year on year. So we do forecasts in that way and make those sort of promises. We don't sell time. We sell outputs and outcomes. So outputs might be right in a 12-month period, we'll run 6 campaigns, of which each generates 50 pieces of content, and those across X amount of channels. So that's the outputs we're selling, and of those outputs, the outcome of that is going to be an extra 1.6 million a year. And if you spend 200 grand with us, it's an X return. So I think we think long term. To be honest, we always try to do 2 years, 3 year forecasts, because then they can show how you're going to scale it over time. But I think people think too small, I think, and they think too short term. But that's a confidence thing. I think agency owners, it's all in confidence. I honestly do. I think that's the trick.
Yeah.
Because I've suffered in my business, and it's directly correlated when my confidence has dropped. You just got to be confident.
When people think like SEO, or they hear like results, search first, like they think SEO and they kind of default to blog posts and so on, and text-based content. Yeah. Can you think back to like a really successful campaign that you've ran, and then paint a picture of what that looked like? Because I'm interested to hear, when we're talking content and we're talking like video content, presumably, static content, like how does video content and static content become search first?
Yeah, I've got a good example of this. We as consumers are making up our own terms all the time. SEOs always go for category keywords. So their job is to literally go, we want to rank for holidays, we want to rank for cars, or we want to rank for iPhones or whatever. So they go after single terms. Whereas we as users, we don't talk like that anymore. We don't search dresses. We already know kind of what we want. What we recognise so we used to work with Pretty Little Thing. Probably one of my best examples because it was truly multi-channel. It was great. We used to work with Pretty Little Thing, and what we noticed is that searches for joggers and hoodies was, a certain amount of volume a month. But searches for airport outfits was 10 times that. And it's because people, yes, was wearing joggers and hoodies at the airport, but the context in where they're wearing it was more important to the consumer. And when we typed in airport outfits, nothing came up. There was no landing page, there was no product pages, there was no content online or anything like that. But what there was UGC. So creators on TikTok, creators on Pinterest have started to create their own little category of airport outfits. Like, here's one wearing the airport, hashtag airport outfit. So they start creating their own UGC. And what we needed to do was just then apply that to search. So we created a airport outfits category on site, and it included every product that was you would wear an airport outfit. So joggers, hoodie, and it was all existed already. We just categorized it in a smart way. We then distributed that to the press of like building like press coverage all around airport outfits and styles of what to wear at the airport within the travel and things like that. But then we got a shit ton of creators. Social was then popping off so much that when people were searching for airport outfits, the most searched for brand for an airport outfit was Pretty Little Thing. We ended up owning that category, if that makes sense. So the content we distributed wasn't just a blog post of here's 10 things you can wear at an airport. It was a full category. It was social content. It was UGC, but it was led via search in the way that people were behaving. Because I think SEO has always just been so much on like just single channel, like little keywords of dresses or joggers or hoodies. But where is it they're wearing that? We ended up replicating that, by the way, the same strategy for destination outfits. So rather than selling bikinis, we did Ibiza outfits, Paris outfits, Greece outfits, and it generated millions and millions of revenue for them. So much that actually a fashion brand got in touch with us a couple of weeks ago saying, we're trying to find an agency that can do this thing for us, and it's this strategy we've seen this brand do. I said, what's the brand? They said Pretty Little Thing. I said, that was us, and we won the client, so...
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a really unique like service positioning.
Yeah.
Has that changed a lot from day one?
It has. Yeah. I think it's because what we've recognized is, you know how I said before, everyone's chasing Google, but we need to chase humans. It was humans that were creating the little airport outfit categories. It was us on TikTok. It was us on Pinterest, pinning our own little ways, way of doing things. So yeah, I think that concept definitely wasn't there from day one of Rise at 7. I think it probably started to come in maybe year 3. I started like thinking, it's humans that are moving faster than anybody else, and we're creating our own little things going on. So yeah, we track social, we track search data, and then create really good marketing strategies off the back of that.
Is it then the creative strategist in the company that's doing that, or you do have a research team that's like looking for those trends?
Creative strategists. Yeah, creative strategists essentially are just search first, so they've got to find data to back up their ideas. So yeah, we have a data team and stuff, but they're very much on the post-campaign side, whereas the pre-campaign, like finding good insight to get ideas, is coming from creatives. Yeah.
A little bit of a segue for a second. Creative strategy seems to be, it's like the hottest role in agency at the moment, and also one of the hardest roles to fill.
It is so hot, because I think that's what I am. Yeah. That's what I used to be, is like a creative strategist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard.
How are you paving that? Like, you're training internally? is this too saucy?
Oh no, it's saucy, yeah. It's a hot topic. God, how are we training that? I think creative strategy people have to have less allocation than everybody else. We all try work on timesheets and things like that, and we allocate time and tasks. Whereas I think creative strategy people have creative freedom to think. So usually they're allocated probably 60% rather than 80% or 100%, whatever agencies do. So yeah, giving them the time and space to be creative and think and find things, that's just one angle of it. But getting them to understand multi-channel is the trick, and that's the hardest thing because I think in the last 10 years, definitely people have gone real niche and specialized, whereas I think broad marketeers is the thing that actually we need now. So I'm trying to train people to think like a marketer and then learn how to apply that to channels. And sometimes actually I just learn from like old school advertisers like Rory Sutherland. If you can understand their way of thinking, you can apply that to any channel kind of thing.
Are you hiring pre-existing creative strategists, or are you finding there are like secondary roles that you're transitioning into that?
I've hired a mix of people. It's really interesting because I've hired like digital strategy people and then creatives and then put them in a team together and let them complement each other, if that makes sense. I think I've hired people from creative backgrounds, creative agencies, and then technical agencies, data backgrounds, and then put them in a team together, see what happens, and that's where they create magic. But yeah, I think trying to find someone that can do it all is hard. But to be honest, the little trick is content marketers. Content marketers, people think blog posts again, but real content marketers, what they're thinking about is a concept that can live on every channel, whether it's email, whether it's blog, whether it's social, things like that. And finding those, and they often exist, by the way, within B2B. So B2B SaaS products, tech, that sort of thing. So they're very, very good people to hire.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that. Cool. And so now, like, where do you feel like the service is going to evolve coming forward? Like we've got, there's a huge amount of hype around AI in the world of SEO at the moment and search results and so on. And LLMs, what are you looking into that? Are you evolving to that space?
Yeah, it's funny. So I was stood on stage a couple of years ago and I basically said that the industry is going to massively change. I think Google's going to lose its dominant share. I think people are going to go to other places to search, like TikTok and Pinterest and all these, and YouTube and things like that. And we're going to see the role of the website probably die. I think the website is going to play a very small part of the user journey. And I remember getting cancelled. So I got like Twitter and everybody was like, who's this girl talking about this? Like, what a load of shit. And then all of a sudden, ChatGPT and TikTok's taking search from Google. Google's below 90% market share for the first time in a decade. And we're seeing it happening real time. We started to move in this direction maybe about 2 years ago. And what we're seeing is that people don't go to Google and search for airport outfits anymore. What they're actually doing is going to ChatGPT and saying, when I run, my shins hurt. So they're sharing problems and pain points. They're having a full-blown conversation with ChatGPT. And then in the end, the journey they go on is to buy a new pair of running trainers because they know that their shoes aren't good enough for when they run. So we've got to understand people's pain points before they've even decided to search, I guess, and search is just having a conversation. So conversational search is huge at the minute, and we're tapping into pain points and real life problems right now for a lot of our clients. Like JD Sports, they sell running trainers, and we're going after those people that have got bad shins right now. So it's an interesting journey. We're all going on in a search, but I personally love it. I think it's so interesting. And it does mean though, so take LLMs, ChatGPT, things like that, they still get their content and information from somewhere. So now it's less around hacking algorithms, but it's about sending signals, I guess. And sending those signals is, creating a more integrated marketing approach, I think, than ever before. And SEO is at the core of it at the minute, which I think is exciting.
Yeah, fine. Awesome. Are you using AI within data? Because we had the conversation about data. Are you using a lot of data within the company based on across all the clients that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah. We use AI in many ways. It's kind of like AI creates the thing and then humans kind of finish it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of the process. But yeah, we scaled to 110 people in our biggest. We're now at 80. But we're doing more revenue, more profit than ever before because essentially you can do more with less, which is the dream of any business owner, if I'm honest. I used to think big headcount was like the signal of success, but it's not. And actually it causes you more headaches.
Yeah, I feel like the companies that are bloated per se, because they're going to start to feel even more bloated as time goes on. They're going to be a big threat by these much smaller, scrappier businesses.
I have a debate often with my finance team because I was always taught that you need to have 100 grand revenue per head, and that makes a good model, right? or $150,000 in dollars. But I think business agencies now, you can do more than that. I think we're averaging maybe about 170, 180,000 a head, something like that. Yeah, and I think if you stick, it's an oversimplified way of looking at running an agency, but it really does help to know how many heads should I have in this business for the revenue we're making. My finance team tell me not to focus on it too much. We need to think about these small things and blah, blah. And I get it, but it does give a general rule of thumb and gives you an idea of what you should have.
Yeah, 100%. Your role, you're still that CEO, that's your position. Did you figure out what that meant and what does that look like today for you?
Yeah. It's a visionary role, and my job is to know what's coming in the next 5 years to keep my guys in jobs. That's ultimately my responsibility. My responsibility is to see the future, which is the hardest job ever. But, I think that's the role I'm thriving in at the minute and making sure I get it right. It's funny, actually, because one of my guys, he's called Brandon, he actually said something to me the other day. He said, how do you get it right every single time? And I said, I don't know. We've got to take gambles, right? We've got to take risks. But my job is to be out there seeing which way the wind is blowing constantly. So, yeah, I don't do much of the work anymore, which is great. My job is to inspire the work. So that's the role I play.
What do you personally enjoy the most out of your current role?
I love teaching people. Like, I love sitting here in conversations with people like you and learning, even in things that aren't in my niche, but I can apply to my niche. And I'll go in and tell everybody about everything that I've learned. My mum actually taught me that from a young age. So when I used to go to school and I remember being at uni, the first thing you do is walked in, took my shoes off, put my school bags down, and she'd go, tell me what you've learned today. Oh, Mum, so I learned about this thing is, when it rains and then it goes up in the clouds and then, you end up telling your mum what you've learned on that day. But I think that's the process that I have within my business is anything that I've learned in my day, I try to go and teach everybody it. This is everything. I've got WhatsApp groups, I've got innovation chats, I've got, try to keep them informed. That's the role I enjoy the most, is teaching people.
Love that.
Yeah, I love it.
And then the business as a whole, like, where do you see Rise at 7 moving towards? Like, do you plan an exit in the future? Do you think you're going to be working till you drop in that company? Like, what's the situation?
I'm going to be honest. I want Rise at 7 to live beyond me. I think it absolutely has the capability to live beyond me. And I think somebody is going to have to take this off my hands. I believe in myself. I believe I can get it past 10 mil. I do. But I do think I'm going to have to pass the reins to someone that's 10 times more qualified than me. And that's not a bad thing. This is me saying, hey, hun, I've got it to here. I need you to get it to there. And I could play a pivotal role in being like an MD or I don't know. I don't care what I am there at that point. I'll play some role. But I think there's someone out there better than me that can take it to where I want it to be. But I want to be the first search agency to win a Cannes Lion. And the Cannes Lion part isn't actually the important part. I'm not that bothered about winning the award. But it's about building an agency capable of.
What does that award mean for people that don't know? So
a Cannes Lion is probably one of the biggest awards you can win within advertising. It's a symbol of great creative work. And, a lot of people will probably laugh at the concept of a Cannes Lion now because, if you pay big budgets and if you have big clients, then you could probably win a Cannes Lion. But ultimately, no one in search has ever won one, a search first campaign. And I want to build an agency. I don't mind not winning the award, but it's about building an agency capable of. Because we've done really good creative work that's with search first at the heart of it, that has great impact on the world, I guess. That's what I want to build. And if that means selling to another agency that can help give us the clients, the budgets, the tool sets to be able to do that, then I'm absolutely in for it. I'm transparent to all of my team that I was 25 when I started this business. I've built it not knowing what I should be doing, and now I've learned great ways of running this business. But I truly know there's people out there that's better than me that can take it off my hands one day. I'm still there now. I'm still got loads that I want to do. So I've got a good couple of years, ahead of me running the business. But yeah, I would love to get this business to live beyond me, and I think somebody else will be able to do that for me one day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Zooming out a bit and looking at or speaking to some of the people that are going to be watching this who've got agencies, the majority of which will probably be stuck in that small to mid-size.
Yeah.
What would you say to those guys who are they're inspired by someone like yourself and they want to break through to that point in the business?
I would say find one product that has the biggest retention? So which product do you sell that you win fast, you retain the longest, and you deliver great work for? Because most agencies do a couple of things, right? Multiple things. What's the one service that you retain the most and, win faster than anything else? 10 times it. Double down on it and make yourself famous for it. Find a unique proposition in the market about that one service and go double down it. Make that your land product. Everything else is expand. So once they've bought that, you expand outwards or upwards. I think too many people are trying to do everything for everyone, and I think you need to go and find the one thing you're really good at, become famous for it, and then expand out over the next few years. But yeah, make yourself famous for the next 2-3 years. It's the one thing you're really good at. That's what I would advise.
Do you think it's better to hyper niche on service or hyper niche on industry that you work with?
Hyper niche on I've gone through this journey actually. I think service, because I've seen people go down the niche route and I like it. There's some great models, and I thought about it myself. But I think the service has a wider opportunity of market, that you can sell that one thing to a lot of people rather than to a small amount of people, or everything to a small amount of people. And I've found as well that some agencies double down on one niche, but they end up not actually being that amazing at that niche. And actually, with other brands like, no, we don't want to work with you because you've got a competitor and things like that. It's quite common at the minute. So yeah, I don't have a really strong opinion, but I think I would, if I was going to do this and I'm thinking, right, which one am I double down on? I'd go double down on a service. That's what I'd do, and make yourself really famous for that service rather than niche.
I think it's also, you run the risk with industry, whether you actually have a deep passion for that industry long term, because you're then locked into that thing for the next 10 years or however long you're going to be doing it.
I actually met someone in Florida a couple of weeks back, and I was asking her what does she do, and she owns a massive agency. There's about 200 people there, and I said, what is it you do? And she said, we specifically work in home holiday rentals. So we're an agency, but just in holiday rentals. But they're doing millions. And I was like, I love it. And I love that, but they've obviously got their own tech products, all these different stuff. So it works for sure. But yeah, I think if anybody's listening to this and you are just an agency that does everything at the minute, you're maybe an integrated agency, multi-channel, things like that, I would double down on a service rather than an industry.
If you were to start again as a founder today, like in today's market, like what's the first thing that you're going to do if you want to grow, let's say aiming to be as fast and sustainable as you were in your growth? What
would I double down on? Personal brand. And personal brand for me is not about me. It's about what I can give to the world. So I'll double down on what can I give to the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would go, right, what is it, everything I know about this industry that's happening right now? Because it's the world is changing rapid and everybody just needs advice. So I would make sure everyone comes to me for advice. That's what I would do.
Nice.
And go and educate, create content, talk on stage, sit in rooms with 10 MDs and say, this is everything I know, I'll teach you everything I know about this industry, whatever. That's what I'd do.
Nice. I mean, personal brand is the best thing that I ever did. I'm so glad that I'd made that decision. But I think now more than ever, even though we're in a world of AI and content and so on, the content iteration is just like more online demands that. The in-person piece, the in-person events, the speaking on stages, the being in front of people. I believe, at least as a society, we're only going to want more of that.
100%.
And that's where the big brands are really going to be built.
I think people forget about the personal part of the personal brand. They're like, who is this person behind the 9 mil revenue, behind the 80 staff, behind the management buyout, behind the Red Bull, clients? Who's the person? Because ultimately, we're in agencies, we're selling people. And I think we need to lean on the great traits that makes you a great founder, and that makes me great and my team great at what they do. And make sure people see it. So yeah, I think there's it's going to be huge about people wanting to be in person. I know that for every minute I'm with clients face to face and with the market face to face, is every minute we make money.
Yeah.
And every minute I'm sat at home in a living room behind a screen is every minute I'm not making money.
I always speak to new agencies who offer, general services are a nice way for them to get in, and then they kind of end up doing other things. Like, for example, lead generation service, paid performance, running lead gen, even for local business, a little bit of AI on top of that. And I say to people, like, it's not about the fact that you're doing something unique, because there are 1,000 people doing what you're doing. It's just about people, and people know, and businesses are aware there are 1,000 people doing this. They just want to see someone, and they want to trust one individual. Yeah. They just need to know someone personally who does that thing that they actually trust.
Yeah, 100%. I sometimes, business deals can come out of nowhere. I was literally on a flight the other week. I ended up, I don't know if a little bit of a tip, if anyone flies with Virgin, they have a bid upgrade service, and sometimes you can bid like £100 and get in first class. Like you can get, and I ended up doing it and got on. I was like, oh my God. So I got on first class, ended up sat down next to this guy, ended up talking to him. Turns out he's the CEO of one of the biggest tech businesses in the world. I didn't even know. I said, oh, what do you do? Work in sales. And he was like, and I only found out he was the CEO afterwards. But I am now... I've been speaking to him for the last 2 weeks with meetings and stuff. We've just won one of their brands. I've just been introduced to the CEO of their global team and all that. So I'm like, those in-person moments of just having a chat on a plane. We had cocktails, just chatting. Do you know what I mean? About what is it we do, about personal life, like everything. I think we don't do enough of that anymore. We really don't. I remember back in the day when I was at my old agency, we used to do like the races and we used to do dinners and stuff all the time, and that was a big part of client services. We don't do that anymore. And I believe there's some people listening that go, no, I've built a business fully remote digitally, and I get it because I've built, my whole business was pandemic remote, so I get it. But I think in order to build a longevity, sustainable business that's going to live beyond me, you have to build community. You have to have relationships, face-to-face time.
Agree.
Yeah.
We went to an event last year, and my co-founder Joe attended this event, and he's just so happened to sit. That's a hack on events is always buy the VIP ticket and be sat at the front with everyone who's prepared to spend. Sat next to this gent, and he so happened to be one of the highest spenders on Meta at that current moment in time. Just spending £1 million per day on Meta, and this was just some lead gen in some new kind of insurance claim model. Then that opened up a conversation to a bunch of introductions. Yeah. We had a wait list of clients off the back of that event, and we ended up working with him for a period of time, like consulting on that ad strategy. Yeah. And it's just through getting in person and having those. I never regret going to events and being in person, speaking to people.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest, I don't know if junior people will be listening to this, but anybody trying to get into the career, like, you have to get out there. There's so many people that I hire that like don't want to leave their living room. They've got social anxiety. Oh, it's unfortunate for them to be in that position, because like I think you have to build confidence and be confident to be able to meet people at events and have a chat. Those skill sets are what we're all looking for to this day, definitely. Yeah.
I've got 3 quick-fire questions for you.
Go for it.
Okay.
Oh my God, I'm nervous.
One brand that you haven't worked with that you'd love to work with?
I would love to work with IKEA.
IKEA? Yeah. Interesting. Why?
IKEA is there in every person's life moments, whether you are moving house, going to university, having a baby. And I would love to have a role in being part of someone's life moment. I think IKEA plays a good role in that.
I can see them doing exceptionally well with your service, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're perfect for it.
100%.
Yeah, awesome. One thing every agency should stop doing immediately.
Talking about themselves.
Nice.
Yeah, in slide decks, get rid of them, cut them out. The very first slide should be everything we know about you. Insight, data.
And it just these aren't really rapid fire because I'm asking a secondary question, but I'm interested. If we're not talking about ourselves, okay, are you talking about the clients quite heavily as well, though? After talking about the prospective client, talking about similar case studies, do you dive into case studies quite thoroughly?
Yeah. So one thing client agencies always do is they'll do all these beautiful decks, talk about themselves, talk about the client, and then their case studies at the end. Never put cases at the end. Always filter it through. So when you're making a recommendation to a client, you go, oh, and by the way, we did this for this, and this is the result. And then you keep going and keep going. So you kind of filter it through case studies. So yeah, we do kind of drop that in, and that's all they need from a signal of trust. So yeah, we do.
That's a great value add, by the way. Like it's a very similar. It's a very similar kind of mindset to like creating a webinar, for example. You produce the training piece and then back it up with evidence.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. One thing you wish you learned earlier as a founder?
Ooh. That my mental health and my confidence and my mindset is actually the most important thing ever. Because if I am not confident and I'm not strong, then, pray for the rest of you because I've got to set those standards and you know, lead with confidence. So yeah, I think I burnt myself out thinking that if I was to put focus into me and my health and my mental health and all that the business is going to suffer because I'm going to have to put all my focus into me. I thought that's what happened, but actually when I put all my focus into me, my business did 10 times better. So yeah, I think that was the lesson I learned.
Yeah, I had this conversation yesterday with a gent that said, like, you are your business. Like, anybody
Literally.
that isn't doing that. What are some principles or what are some like habits that you've introduced that have enabled you to bring your best and be your best?
I remember at the time when I was building the business and we was doing great revenue, great profit, but I was still paying myself 40 grand a year. I lived in a small 2-bed house that I bought when I was on 28 grand a year. I didn't feel like a winner. And I remember someone saying to me, go feel like a winner. Go and book yourself in first class or go and get yourself that car. Because if you don't feel like a winner, you're not going to bring that back into the business where everybody else feels like, oh my God, I feel like a winner too. So if anyone's in this like mid-journey of the business is doing great, but you're personally not necessarily winning from it, my honest, friendly advice is go do something that makes you feel like a winner and go experience it, because then you won't want to go back either. So that was one of them. Yeah. What else was it? What was the question again?
Well, I think that's an exceptional way to finish up, to be honest. I think that's a beautiful like piece of advice. And I preach that so heavily.
Yeah.
Like, go experience something great. Buy the car, do the thing, you know. Joe, my co-founder, we had this big debate. He was like, can I buy a Porsche? Like, are we at that point? I was like, get the Porsche, sit in that car every day, drive to the office and feel like the boss. Yeah. You know, and bring your best to it. And it makes you fill those boots.
This sounds bad, but like, I am my finance team's nightmare. Because the team will go, right, we've got a meeting in London, we've got a client pitch, and they need a hotel. She's trying to find the cheapest hotel in London. No, I'm not going to put them in the Ritz, but I'm like, go get them something nice. And they're like, oh, you know, Carrie, we need to keep... No, because then they'll do a great job. They'll feel like winners. They'll be in the room opening their curtains, and they'll feel like great, and they'll go and make it back. It's 300 quid. Like, just let's go and make them feel like winners. I've just taken everybody to Wilderness. Wilderness Reserve is one of the most luxury places in the UK for taking everyone. I want my team to feel like a fucking winner. That's what I want them to feel. So, because do you know what? Winning creates winners. If you ever see someone win, and then they win again, and then they keep winning, you think, oh my God, it's crazy. It creates winner mentality. And I think if we can create winner mentality by doing these little win moments, it can build really successful people. So a little hack.
I love that.
Yeah, but you got to invest in it.
Yeah, Carrie, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.